Hello, and welcome to another edition of Long Beach Treasures. I'm your host, Harvey Keller. Today we're going to be visiting the historic Rancho Los Cerritos. This was part of a 300,000 acre land grant given to Manuel Nieto in 1784. And then it was divided up into 5 ranchos of approximately 27,000 acres each. One of those was Rancho Los Cerritos. John Temple built the 2-story adobe house in 1844. The Flint Bixbys purchased the property in 1866. In 1930, Llewellyn Bixby remodeled the home as a single family structure for he and his family. And in 1956, the city of Long Beach bought this, and it is a National Historical Landmark. One of the things that is taking place today is that the rancho has been closed for the last 17 months. It's been undergoing seismic retrofitting and restoration, and today is going to be the grand reopening. Rancho Los Cerritos is the only historical site in the city of Long Beach that is on the city, state, and national registry of historic places. It has also been designated by the Department of Interior to be a national landmark. So we have an interesting day here today, so as soon as they cut the ribbon, come with me and we'll take a step back in time and we'll see what life was like here at the rancho in 1844.
On the count of 3, shall we?
Right.
1, 2, and 3.
Okay, joining me now is Steve Iverson, whose title is Historical Curator. Steve, they've done a beautiful job in retrofitting and restoration up here. And where we're standing here, there used to be a big wall, I believe, up here, and that's been gone now.
Yeah, the wall was put in 1982 by the city, and with our new master plan, one of the decisions was to take the wall and the courtyards out and restore the 1930 fruit orchard that was designed by landscape architect Ralph Cornell.
So this is where the fruit orchard will be. You'll be adding more trees?
Quite a few more. There'll be a nice neat rows, and it will give a wonderful view as people come up the driveway to see the trees rather than a blank white wall.
Let's go around front. I would like to have you tell me about the garden up there. Okay. Let's go. Now, Steve, tell us where we are now and where we're going.
We are in the garden outside the historic adobe building, where you see the veranda, which originally dated back to 1844 and was completely rebuilt in 1930 by the Bixby family. The garden out here is a more formal, a less formal garden than the original garden that was planted by John Temple in the 1840s. And this, again, was landscaped by Ralph Cornell, and we have been trying to restore a lot of the plants to that 1930 design.
You have, what, 4.7 acres here?
Exactly.
Let's go down and look at this quaint little garden down here. Now, is this typical of what it would have looked like in 1844, the layout?
Actually, this is a 1930 layout. The original square grid pattern is different today, and although there are several surviving trees from the 1840s, most of the rest of the vegetation is 1930 era design.
So this would be the Jotham Bixby era?
Actually, the Llewellyn Bixby era.
I meant Llewellyn Bixby, because he moved here in what, 1866?
Jotham Bixby moved here in 1866, and the family continued to own the site, but did not redevelop it and remodel the house until 1930. So we have actually multiple historic periods in the house.
This is a quaint little garden. It's really, since it's so hot out today, it feels good back here.
The canopy of trees, many of them date from 1930, so you can see how large they've grown. The tree right here to our right was planted by John Temple around 1850. It's one of 2 olive trees that were planted on the site and have continued to live until into several more centuries.
So it's just a trunk that's left.
This one, just the trunk, and we have another one that is still giving us olives.
Edible?
If you process them, yes.
Huh. So this is just a little garden just to walk around, commune with nature, and just enjoy the outside?
Yes, and in the 1930s, when the Llewellyn-Bixby family had several grandchildren, they would be out here playing on the paths and chasing marbles all up and down. All kinds of things where they had creative fun in the garden.
How many gardeners does it take to keep this up?
We have a full-time horticulturist and 1.5 days a week of a mow and blow crew that comes in and assists us under her direction.
So it's really a skeleton crew that keeps this looking so fantastic.
Well, we try to be as efficient as we can and yet maintain the historical integrity of the site.
Gosh, we just keep wandering around here, don't we?
Yeah, the wonderful pathway that circles the garden leaves a great lawn area for games and activities, luncheons, etc.
Let's walk down this way. I want to ask you a question down here.
Okay.
I heard an interesting story earlier this morning, and I'm going to ask you to tell us about it. I understand that you had a bunch of folding metal chairs which had perhaps seen better days, and you decided to come up with a creative way of getting some new chairs. And that creative way was?
Well, our Friends organization, someone came up with the idea of endowing chairs, just like a great university would. And in this case, for a donation of $50, various people in the community and in the volunteer organization paid to have their names inscribed on a chair as their own endowment.
What a creative way to get new chairs.
It has turned out really good. We've got 100 new chairs that look like they'll last us for hopefully longer than the old ones did, which was quite a while.
Well, that's great. Steve, thank you. I'm going to wander in the house and see some of the docents and see what they have to say.
Okay, enjoy
Thank you,
it.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found 2 guests here who have stepped back from time. This is Llewellyn Bixby Jr. and Sarah Bixby Smith. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's,
Pleased to be back.
Isn't it nice? And I've read your book, Adobe Days.
Well, have you? I'm so pleased that people are still reading it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a bestseller.
That's marvelous. Well, this must... Surely we are still in the 20th century, right?
Oh,
and you're still
absolutely.
reading it?
Absolutely.
We couldn't be in the 21st century
Well,
yet, right?
you know, we might be by now.
Whoa, my goodness, and they're still reading my book.
Test of time. It stands up, doesn't
Yes,
it?
it does.
What was life like back in 1844? Is that when you moved here?
No, I remodeled the house in
Oh,
1930, and my father and uncle moved into the house in the 1860s. My father, Llewellyn, and our uncle, Jotham, was the one who moved into the house in 1866 and raised sheep in the 1860s. Now, I remodeled it in 1930, moved in 1931, St. Patrick's Day.
Well, how does it look to you today?
It looks beautiful. The color, the walls, and the trim is just as I envisioned it. Sun porch and everything is back to the way it was. And one touch that I really enjoy is the frog spitting water into my pond.
I thank you so much for joining me, and I'm so glad that you made it back.
Thank you very much.
We are too.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Okay, now I found 3 more treasures here at the Rancho. These are all members of the Bixby family. Now, I know you're
Jean
Jean
Bixby Smith.
Smith,
Yes,
and you remember being here as a child.
absolutely. Lots of fun memories. Barbara told you of some of them when she spoke earlier, and maybe she'll repeat those. There's one story that I don't remember, but that I was told, which was the time when I was 2 years old, when I disappeared during dinner and reappeared with moss and things hanging off me. Apparently I had fallen in the fish pond and dragged myself out. Gave them all quite a fright.
And this is Mark Bixby, and
Yes.
you must be a grandson?
I am Gene's nephew.
Great-grandson?
I'm the great-great-grandson of Llewellyn Bixby. And the first Llewellyn. There were 4 before me. So
And you're still involved with the Bixby Land Company?
I do. I'm vice president of Bixby Land Company, and we do commercial development in Long Beach in Southern California.
I'm your competitor, I guess. I'm a docent at Rancho Los Alamitos, so I'm on the John Bixby side rather than the Jotham Bixby side.
Well, I'd say we're friendly competitors.
All right.
We know and like a couple of the folks over there.
I'll buy that.
Right.
And I'm sorry, you are.
I'm Barbara Bixby Blackwell.
And you're her sister.
I am Jean's sister, yes.
And Mark's aunt again.
Yes.
And what do you remember as a girl here?
Well, I have a cousin, Stephen Dudley, who was my father's sister's son, and Steve and I were the same age, so I remember running races around the front yard. There's a dirt pathway that goes around the yard, and I can remember it's in a perfect oval shape. It was a great racetrack, so I remember running races on that pathway. That was fun.
How does the place look to you today?
Oh, it looks wonderful. The work that they've done here is remarkable, and it's such a pleasure to see it refurbished and repainted and spruced up, because it was looking a little sad in places, and it's very nice.
Well, what a treasure we have here in Long Beach. I'd like to thank the 3 of you for stopping by and saying hello, and enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And here's one of the fabulous docents up here at Rancho Los Cerritos, Maureen Haybold. Maureen, tell us a little bit about the room that we're in.
Well, we're in the family's dining room, and I think the first thing I'd like to point out, Harvey, is this ceiling is original from 1844.
Wow.
The room is set up to depict what the family dining arrangements would have looked like when the Jotham Bixby family lived here from 1866 to the early 1880s. Now remember, between 1844, when the rancho was built, and when the Jotham Bixby family moved in here, it was a cattle ranch. So food was very, very limited during that period of time. Obviously, they had choice cuts of beef because they really raised the cattle for the hides, and they had lots of beef, tortillas, corn, beans, but not a lot of variety. When Jotham Bixby and his family moved here, of course, they were from Maine, from New England. They had a family. They were used to much more variety of foods. So this room, again, shows that the family would have sat in here, children as well as adults. The aprons over the chairs show that women and girls always wore aprons, and primarily to cut down on laundry, because laundry was such a problem.
Is the furniture original?
The furniture is not original to the family, but it's original to the time.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time out to give us a brief tour of the dining room.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Long Beach Treasures.
Look, peas. Don't turn away, you... I'm not a cook. I did not take your raffle. You'd like to see your mommy, wouldn't you?
Hey, you guys. How you doing?
We're doing fine.
Hey, sweetheart. You having fun with Uncle Dan?
I got a couple of questions if you...
I've got to go, but
Wait. No, don't go ahead.
Video calling.
Well, it's just you and me, babe. What do you want to do?
The future's coming from the company with the most advanced digital platform.
Straight Talk with your host, Art Levine, returns to the airwaves. Featuring his unique brand of interview style, topics discussed on Straight Talk will focus on issues, events, and people of importance to Long Beach, as well as the region and the state of California. Tune in Wednesdays and Thursday nights at 6:30 p.m. for lively and provocative discussions with people who are making the news. Straight Talk on Charter Channel 3, your local origination channel for Long Beach and Signal Hill.
What makes Polly's different?
Well, first of all, his coffee is fresh roasted 1,000 miles from Seattle, so we like to have coffee that's fresher and tastes better.
We carry about 70 varieties of coffee. But the thing that I believe makes Polly's special is the people who work at Polly's. We're a neighborhood store. We're your family store. We know you, you know us. We'll take care of you. We were voted the #1 coffee house in Long Beach in the recent Press Telegram poll.
Polly's Gourmet Coffee. Doesn't get any better than this.
Oh, hi, I'm Dr. Jack Thomas, and I'm very excited to tell you that Dr. Jack's House Call, in conjunction with Charter Communications, is on the air in its brand new format. We're live the third Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. with repeat performances twice weekly. It's incumbent on us to be advocates for our own good health. Staying well comes from living well, being informed, and not relying on health insurers who may not have our best interests in mind. So be smart. Tune in. It's your life.
All the gin joints. No cuts. No commercials. No competition.
I don't want any trouble.
Only the greatest movies of all time, all the time. Turner Classic Movies.
Catch it on Digital Channel 93, Analog Channel 54B.
Wilbanks Carpet Company. If you're looking for carpet, floor covering, beds, or furniture, come to Wilbanks. We carry all the major premium carpets by Karastan, Horizon, and Mohawk, and you never have to pay sales tax. See our premium bed selection with many name brands to choose from, or check out our furniture with the latest styles at great prices. View our beautiful floor coverings from Mannington, Wilson Art, and many more. Wilbanks Carpet Company. Never pay retail or sales tax again.
Okay, Maureen, I see I picked you up again, and we're going to see another room. Tell me about this one.
Yes, this is the what would be have been the master bedroom for the Bixbys. As you can see, just looking around here, infants slept in the room with the adults here. Now, because of the 1930s restoration, some of the things in this room was not quite as long as it is now, and this fireplace was not there, nor were those door entries there. You can see, just looking around the room, some of the activities that would have taken place here, starting over here with sewing. Probably by the time Jotham Bixby and his family moved in here, they could probably afford to have a seamstress come down from Los Angeles and actually make clothing for the family. That would have been done in this room.
Looks like a small bed.
Oh, it is, and a low bed.
And is this a, what would you call it, a convenience?
That is definitely a convenience, and it's very interesting to ask people on tours what they think the function of that is.
Well, I thought first it was a step stool, and I thought, no.
How low that bed is now.
The bed's not high enough to need a step stool, so it must be a convenience.
And it's quite a nice convenience. And then this area over here is interesting also. This is where Mrs. Bixby would have taken care of a lot of her obligations. Remember, she had a lot of work to do. She had to homeschool the children because there weren't any schools around. She might have done that here. Mrs. Bixby also, remember, she had to do all the meal planning and all the ordering for shopping for someone to go to Los Angeles, 16 miles away, to haul provisions back down here. So she likely would have sat here and met with the cook or whomever was going to Los Angeles. So this was a very, this room was used for a multiplicity of purposes, just not for sleeping.
This looks like a unique piece. What is it?
It is. It's a wreath that's made out of human hair.
Why would you have a wreath made of hair?
That was considered in the late 1800s a very beautiful art form. Remember, these people were the original environmentalists. They never threw anything out.
So this was just a work of art. It wasn't something to be worn.
No, no, no. This was a work of art, and actually, although people saved hair, as you combed or brushed your hair every day.
Joining me now is Marcia Harris, who's one of the docents, and she's going to tell us about where we are right now.
We just walked through the gate that might have been the original gate entrance, but then again, this wouldn't have been grass. This didn't come out to the 30s. It would have been all dirt where a carriage might have come. And then as we imagine in the years go on, it would become a 1930 decoration here. And we have our reflection pond. What was the style of that time period?
And the reflection pond was, what, 1930?
1930s.
and the two wings on each side of us. This used to house the different people who worked here at the Rancho.
In different rooms, different things now have been set up. If you notice, we have a blacksmith room, and we have the foreman's room, and there was a laundry. Yes, a different area, different things for people to see in all the different time periods.
It really looks great, doesn't it? They've done a wonderful job in restoring this.
Oh, I'm excited about it being open again.
Well, thank you, Marcia. We're going to go in the house and check it out.
Enjoy.
Thank you. Okay, Vicki, come on and tell me all about the parlor here. This is Vicki Holden. She's another docent here at the Rancho, and this looks rather small. Is it for a parlor?
Fairly small. It's the size it was, though, in the 1870s when the Jotham Bixby family lived here. And they would have come probably in after supper, and the children would have found a small game to play, and the gentlemen might have had their cigars and played a game of cribbage. The ladies, if you look through the hazy smoke of the cigars, you might have seen the ladies sitting on the sofa and planning what they were doing the next day or where they were taking the children. And if you notice the stove in the corner, that's about the only stove that was in the house in the 1860s to keep the house warm.
Wow, it must have been a little chilly
I imagine it
some of
was.
the time.
That's why they had the bed warmers and things like that upstairs, yes.
Furniture doesn't really look that comfortable, does it?
No, it doesn't. I'm always amazed, though, when you think about during the summertime, they might have taken all that furniture out to the garden to enjoy the weather outside.
I think my lazy boy looks a lot more comfortable.
I agree.
Now, is this furniture period furniture, or is this in part of the home?
This is period furniture. Unfortunately, we have very few pieces that actually belong to the Bixby family. We have a few, but not too many, because they had moved out of the house in the 1880s, and then when the Llewellyn Bixbys were here, they also moved out of the house and took everything with them at that time. So.
Well, Vicki, I want to thank you for your expertise. It's been a pleasure.
Well, we're glad you're here to see us. Thanks for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you. Okay, Steve, now this is a blacksmith shop. Right. And every ranch and every farm had, this was a very important place, right?
Extremely important. If you didn't have a good working shop for blacksmithing and for woodwork, your chances of keeping your operation working when you had breakdowns was real slim.
This looks rather small, is it?
The original shop was almost twice this size.
Oh, so it was larger.
Right. We have restored as much as we had available to show the operation of both the ironworking and woodworking.
Boy, with so little ventilation, this must have been rather warm in here when they had the kilns and blowers and everything fired up.
Yes, I'm sure it was very warm, although if you notice the cone-shaped windows near the ceiling, those were set up in such a way that the heat and the soot would tend to rise and be funneled out through those windows, and the cool air came in from the other side of the room in the door and the window.
Now, this part of the Rancho is still from the 1844s?
Yes, the shop was originally built by John Temple in 1844 and supported his cattle ranching operation. This is the area where they shod the horses, repaired a lot of the equipment, buggies and wagons and fences.
Can we run down and take a quick peek at the foreman's
certainly
lodging?
Oh, yes.
Okay, now this is where the foreman lived?
Yes, traditionally, way back into the mid-19th century, the foreman lived in the room on the end and nearest to the gate.
Is there any reason?
Well, he would be able to oversee the coming and going of different people who came to the rancho. His responsibility was to manage the site when the owner wasn't here, which during John Temple's period of the cattle ranch in the 1840s and 50s was most of the time.
Now, this would be pretty typical of the 1844 conveniences?
Probably from 1844 through about the 1870s. Much of the furnishings are common to that period.
I like the way they lower the lantern and raise it.
Yes, that is a brilliant idea, isn't it?
The bed doesn't look all that comfortable to me either.
The bed itself is a straw mattress, and it is on top of a very early spring mattress, patented in about 1870.
I noticed a chamber pot under the bed.
Yes. Shall we show it?
Sure. Wow. That's different.
Popularly sometimes known as a thunder mug.
A thunder mug?
Thunder mug, yes. And that saved a lot of steps on a very cold night in the midst of winter.
I bet it did. Well, thanks, Steve. We're going to go back in the house and go to the library, and that's going to be our final shot.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. I see a lot of books here, so I'm going to assume that this is probably the library. And joining me now is Ellen Calamaris, and she is the executive director of the Rancho. Is that your title?
My city title is Historic Sites Officer, but I direct the site for the city of Long Beach.
You've done a beautiful job in the restoration. I want to compliment you on that.
Thank you. We're very pleased.
Would you tell us a little bit about the library?
This library was first formed in 1930 out of 2 rooms from the 19th century. They were storage rooms. The family in the 1930s expanded it and created a family library in here. When the city of Long Beach acquired the site in the 50s, it was only natural to continue its use as a library. We were operated through the Department of Public Libraries and started to collect materials on California history. We now have a fine collection of California research materials, both rare books and modern texts. And this whole system is cataloged for the public library system. It's open for public use during our regular hours.
So people can come up here and do research using your materials?
Absolutely. We encourage scholars, students, and amateur historians to use the materials here on site. In addition, we have an archives and a research collection that is not in this room, but is also available for scholars who are specifically researching the Long Beach and Rancho history topics.
What a history this has to tell. If walls could talk, this would really tell a tale. What are your open hours? Or what hours are you open?
We're open Wednesday through Sunday from 1 to 5 for public tours, self-guided on weekdays and guided on weekends. We also have some extended hours in August for a couple of evening concerts during our reopening month. Some special programs in September 22nd, we're celebrating those and honoring people who've become new citizens with a big cultural celebration.
This is a yearly event, isn't it?
It is a yearly event, and we've expanded it September 22nd with dance and music and arts that represent the cultural diversity of our community.
So if people haven't been up to the Rancho yet and have not seen this treasure, they need to get up here very, very soon and experience a really, truly remarkable place.
We hope they will.
And I thank you, Ellen, for joining me, and I thank you for letting us take a tour of your Rancho today, because certainly this is a Long Beach treasure.